Good afternoon, everybody. This is a very loud mic today. Welcome to the Dayton International Peace Museum on this rainy, sort of sunny, muggy day of almost spring. Happy to have the warm weather here. So, welcome to this season for nonviolence that we are still celebrating and the power of words. Today, we are here to celebrate somebody's very, very impressive and powerful story. And I won't talk about that specifically because I will let Mike and Grace tell that story. But it is an honor to have somebody here that has
International Peace Museum in Dayton. Um, Without further ado, I would like to thank a couple of supporting uh, organizations through the Return Peace Corps Volunteer Association, the National Peace Corps Association. I'd like to thank the Museum of Peace Corps Experience. I'd like to thank the Peace Corps Community for Refugees. I'd like to thank the Return Peace Corps Volunteers for Environmental Action, and of course the NPCA, the National Peace Corps Association. Good afternoon, or as we say in Kiribati, Kamna ni Maori. It's an honor to be here today to introduce a woman whose story is as compelling as it is urgent. Grace James, a native of Kiribati, has lived a journey of resilience, of hope, and of perseverance, one that she now shares with the world through her powerful book, The Longest Wait. Kiribati holds a special place in my heart, and the only reason why we're here today is because I was sent there to serve as a Peace Corps volunteer back in 2000, nearly 25 years ago. I tell this all the time, but I told my recruiter that I don't want to go any place that's hot. I don't want to go any place that serves fish because I'm allergic to fish. And I don't want to go any place that has boats because I'm severely prone to motion sickness. It turned out to be the biggest mistake, but yet the best mistake of my life. My own journey with this island nation began when I served there 25 years ago. And since then, my connection to Kiribati has only deepened, shaping my life's work in advocacy, storytelling, and the fight for climate and human rights. We have a piece on climate tonight. Throughout the years, I have witnessed this remarkable nation's beauty and struggles, its rich culture, deep sense of community, and the challenges its people face in an increasingly uncertain world. Grace's story is one of those challenges for me. Her journey is not just about Kiribati, nor is it solely about migration. It's about the deeply rooted personal and often painful experience seeking safety, security, and recognition in a system that too often overlooks human conditions at its center. The Longest Wait brings to light the realities of the asylum process here in the United States. The bureaucratic limbo that stretches months into years and a decade of living with the emotional toll of uncertainty for Grace. But more than that, it exposes the stark reality. Not only do our systems in the US fail to recognize the urgency of those seeking refuge, but they are also woefully ill equipped to handle the overburden of the influx of these realities. Her story is one of hundreds of thousands, but it's one story that everyone should hear. The policies and structures in place were never designed to meet the scale of today's displacement crises, leaving individuals in an indefinite state of waiting for justice, waiting for answers, a place to belong, and ultimately, peace. Sorry. Grace's story is not her own. It reflects so many of stories that are around us worldwide, from climate displaced persons to asylum seekers navigating the complexities of legal systems. It's a story that demands to be heard and compels us to take action, to listen, to stand in solidarity with fellow human beings. Grace will share her asylum journey and her life beyond walls talk today. She will take us beyond the physical and bureaucratic barriers that asylum seekers face and explore what it means to live in a world that too often turns its back on those in need. After her talk, we encourage you to join us to discuss The Longest Wait. Ariana To, a dear friend of mine, will facilitate a conversation with Grace that explores the themes of her book and the broader issues that it raises. We'll also gather questions, we'll take questions from anyone here So don't hesitate, raise your hand. And finally, after the discussion, we invite you to join us for a book signing in the back with Grace, where you'll have the opportunity to meet her, take pictures, and get a signed copy. Thank you again, online and in person, for being here today. Without further ado, I'd like to have all of you join in welcoming Grace to the stage.
It works. Oh yeah, sorry. Um, okay, so first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. I am so honored and I'm so grateful to be here. And before I start my talk, I just want to share with you a short clip of one of my good friends who also detained at the same facility where I was. We were detained in James Music Jail. It's in Irvine, California. And I just want to share a story before I share with you the talk that will explain more about the things that we experience inside immigration detention center. So, yeah. Sometimes I'm not too sure if the mic is working, but you guys can hear me good? All right. So as you can see, that was my friend Ibani blessing, and it was a great um, blessing for me to be able to um, how do you say, to see the fruit of your service. You know, sometimes it's it's so easy to reach out to the people that actually went through the same thing that you did because we know how it feels. Sorry. So the short clip that we just watched represents few of the reasons why I wanted to share my story. Not many people understand what being inside a detention center feels like. Many believe that once asylum seekers cross the border, that their struggles are over. But crossing the border is just the beginning. Arriving in a foreign land with unfamiliar custom, people, language, and ways of life adds to the burden that asylum seekers carry. Oh. The way society perceives us, often with judgments or disdain, deepens our sense of not belonging. I remember the moment I decided to leave my island. I left behind everything and everyone I know. My my husband at that time had endangered my life. After 2 years of enduring abuse, it became routine. But when I suffered a miscarriage, that's when I knew that I had to leave. When I arrived in the US, I felt relief. I felt relief because I know I was no longer in danger. But at the same time, I was lost. What was I going to do now? How could I start over? I felt entirely out of place until I met these women in detention center. From their experiences, I learned how strong they were. Many had endured more than I did simply to survive, seek safety, and build a future. Their stories reshaped how I saw myself. I used to think that being an asylum seeker is something that I'm ashamed of. But from the experiences, I learned that asylum seeker is more than just a hardship. It represents incredible perseverance, courage, and hope. Sorry. Yes, from the experiences, sorry. When I share my story, I also came across people that downplay the circumstances that we went through. I heard people say detention isn't that bad. At that moment, I realized and I know that they have no idea what it's like to be inside. Sharing our stories is one way to help them understand what we went through and why we came. Yes, we had a place to sleep and food to eat, but we were locked behind barbed wire, not knowing or unsure of what tomorrow would bring. Imagine waking up to an officer in the middle of the night at your bunk saying, "Get up, pack your stuff, you're being deported." Imagine waiting months or even years for your court date, only to hear your next court will be in 3 or 4 months from now. Return to detention. These are few of the uncertainties that asylum seekers live with daily. But beyond the physical confinements, there is something even worse: mental imprisonment. As asylum seekers, we know we have each other because we understand the sacrifices we made just to stay alive and just to stay safe. But life is what you make of it. One of the common questions I was asked when I was in detention: why are you always why are you always smiling? On July 29, 2016, I arrived at the facility. One kind woman approached me and she handed me this handmade book. And she said, "I think you need this book more than I do." She said, "Use it however you want, as a journal or as a diary." I took the book, thanked her, and climbed onto my bunk, positioned near the officer's window, the only light source in an otherwise dark room. That night, I tried to write, but it was difficult. The sound of sobbing filled the air. Earlier that night, I had traveled multiple facilities, exhausted, cold, and hungry, and of course, unable to shower. But somehow, I managed to write the few things that I was grateful for. As you can see on the screen, this is my gratitude journal that I wrote in every single night, even on days when I felt like I had nothing to be grateful for. Or when I was too tired to hold a pencil. I kept going because that's who we are. As asylum seekers, we don't know how to give up. That journal became my lifeline, a tool that kept my mind from breaking. It also helped me to refocus on things that added value to my life, like teaching. Before my detainment, before I came to the US, I was a high school computer teacher. When I arrived at the facility, I immediately wanted to teach. However, I realized that most women, especially those from South America, they had never attended school. Some had to work so young in the farm to support their families. And some live in areas where it was too dangerous to go to school. So let's pause for a moment. Thank you. Let's pause for a moment. I know that we all have been students or maybe currently are students right now. So let me ask you, how many of you are excited and happy to be in school? Okay. Wow. You guys are way better than me. I remember complaining about spending Friday nights in the computer lab, stuck on coding assignments while my friends were out having fun. I remember dreading early morning classes. But after meeting these women and witnessing their determination to learn, regardless of age and circumstance, I realized how often we take education for granted. Education is a powerful tool It is a beacon of light in the darkest of times. Sorry. So I started learning Spanish. After a few months, I began teaching basic English to 2 women, then 4, and before I knew it, I had taught nearly a quarter of the room. But don't get me wrong, my English isn't great, but I could read, write, and understand it, and that was enough. I built meaningful relationships, and after a long time, in years, I felt at peace. I I felt like I was exactly where I was needed to be. And sometimes we think that we need wealth or status to make a difference. But the truth is, we can always find ways to help others. All it takes is your time and your presence. Um, Psychologist Robert Emmons, who is, by the way, my favorite author, who has spent several years researching gratitude, once said, "Gratitude is fertilizer for the mind, spreading connections and improving its functions in almost or nearly every realm of experience." I agree. When we practice gratitude, it helps us to transform our perspective. It helps us to become more resilient, and it helps us to face life's challenge with strength and perspective. Also, one of the things that really stuck out to me when I was there, it's one of the quotes by Charles R. Swindoll. I believe he's one of the olden poets, or it's a poet in the olden times. And this is what he said regarding attitudes. "The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. To me, attitude is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, the education, money, failures, successes, more important than what other people think, say, or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It can actually make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice to choose the kind of attitude that we will embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way, and we cannot change the inevitable. The only thing that we can play is the one string that we have, and that is our attitudes. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. From this quote, it helps me to realize that attitude is so important. It really can help us to shape the kind of experience that we want for our lives. And again, it's just an honor and a great opportunity that you guys have me to be here. And thank you so much for being part of my story.
I just want to say a great big thank you to Grace for being here, for doing this, and she is an amazing person. I now call back to the stage Grace and Ariana, who will do a little discussion about the longest wait.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am the lucky person that gets to interview her. And I am so honored to be here with you today. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story with us, for sharing it with the world. And after reading the book a couple of times now, I can say that this is one of the most positive books I've ever read. You definitely get the sense when you're reading it that you're a very hopeful person. Um, I want to talk a little bit about growing up in Kiribati, what it was like, how remote is it, what is the standard of living?
So growing up in Kiribati, I would say it's very simple lifestyle. We do not really, when it comes to technology and modern lifestyle, we don't really have those things. Our internet is always so slow, so we're not. I would say we lack of exposure to like outside world, which really help us in ways that we preserve and very into how do you say, practicing our own tradition and not being influenced of the outside world. But I would say our lifestyle is very simple. It's all about respect. It's all about hospitality when it comes to visitors to our islands. So, yeah.
It sounds like a beautiful place. I wanted, yeah, well, well, let's all go, right? I want to talk a little bit about one of the harder parts of this book, the abuse that you suffered, and I want you to tell us a little bit about that and how it is part of the culture in Kiribati almost.
Thank you, Ariana, for that question. One of the things that I was kind of struggle with when it comes to writing the experiences that I want to include in my book was the details of the abuse that I experienced with my ex-husband. There are many times where I told myself, okay, I'm gonna leave this out. You know, this is too much for people to read. But then, what helped me to have the courage to be able to include those experiences was that I thought about women that might experience the same thing, and I thought about the women that I can um, actually relate to their experiences, and I don't want to miss out on people that might experience the things that I don't want to include in my book, you know, and I just want them to feel that I know how it feels when you're going through terrible physical abuse, and it's it's a difficult thing to have. It can affect your um, self-esteem as a woman. Sometimes you feel like, okay, maybe I deserve this, that kind of feeling. And so that was like the the challenge part that really makes me feel that I don't have to include it. But I think the thought about women that might experience the same thing with what I experience really gives me that courage and help me to motivate me to include those actually detailed experiences that I had with my ex-husband.
We're certainly glad that you did, and you're incredibly brave to share that. I think it resonates with anyone who has ever had a friend, a loved one who has experienced that type of trauma. For those of us who are not familiar with the asylum process, can you take us briefly through what you experienced? How long was your detainment? And what was it like on a daily basis?
So asylum seekers, it's for me based on my own experience, and I'm pretty sure my limited knowledge as well. But I'm just gonna answer according to what I know from my personal experience. Is that asylum seekers is we we have to be inside the U.S. to be able to apply for it. It's kind of different with refugee where they already apply and accepted by the government to come here. And also usually, so because it's the only way for us to apply to for asylum is to be inside. That's why a lot of people trying to first to cross the border to be able to legalize their how to legalize their documents for being here. Um, and then once we cross the border, they will take us to the facility, immigration detention center. And from there, we will wait for, it can be a few months. It can take a month just to wait for our turn to be interviewed by an ICE officer for our to know and to decide if we are eligible for asylum. And so what happens is that once we finish our interview and once they decide, their decision can take about another month or another month or two. And then they will call us once they decide and tell us, okay, this is the decision for your interview. And so when you are eligible for asylum, then you're lucky. You get to stay in the US and wait for your court. But if you fail the interview and they decide that you're not eligible for asylum, then you get deported right away after that day. Or not right away, but they will decide the day that you're going to be removed from the country. And you would not have any court at all because they already decide that you're not eligible for it. And now it comes after after knowing that you're eligible for asylum, then now you have your immigration courts. And those courts, in order for you to continue to even have the first master hearing, you need to apply. You need to complete the form, I believe, the I-795. I'm not too sure. It's been a long time. But you need to complete this form to be able to have your master hearing. And so the thing is, everything in courts is in English. And so this is something that I learned when I was there. Thankfully and luckily, I have a lawyer. So, you know, she's the one who completed the form for me. But then I learned afterwards that a lot of my friends that also eligible for asylum, but their courts have been prolonged and they still haven't get a date for their master hearing. And I learned after I talked to one of my friends that actually they cannot complete the form because they never go to school before, so they don't understand how to complete it. And also because, you know, obviously we're not eligible for a free lawyer, you know, like where a lot of citizens, they do have that in courts. For us, it's like we're lucky if we have pro bono, but it's very impossible. With pro bono, ICE gave us a list of it's like this big of the list of pro bono lawyers, but when you try their numbers, it's so impossible. And even sometimes they do answer our call when we call them, but they always say no because they already have a lot of cases with them. So it's so impossible to get a lawyer, especially when you cannot afford one. And so that's really the reason why a lot of other women that have been there before me, it's just they've been there for more months just because they cannot complete their form. And so after I learned about that, I was able to find a friend who's been living here for a while, but she's also detained. And I guess she's waiting for her deportation removal process. And she speaks Spanish. She just cannot really read or write in English. So I was able to work with her, and we were able to help like all the rest of the asylees where they didn't understand or cannot even complete their form. And from there, that's when they have the actual dates for their master hearing. And then once we have a master hearing, it takes about just few months to get our final hearing. So with everything, it's usually takes a year or more than 10 a year.
Are you in detainment the entire time?
Yeah, so I was detained for over a year. I was lucky enough to have my master hearing right away, but unfortunately, I have a judge. She's the only woman judge, and she's actually a lot of lawyers, they are scared of her. She has her own, I don't know, sometimes I just felt like she just hates immigrants, but she just always find ways to kind of like postpone, my next hearing. Every time we went back to court, she will ask for like one document. She was like, okay, I need to see this. So we came back. Luckily, my family back home, um, they're very good in getting documents that I need from my courts from here. So I was able to get all the documents that I need. But once we came back with the documents she needed, then she will ask us to come back with another one. So that's just prolong.
How long did that go on?
It takes a year, more than a year, until actually we finally have our final hearing. And on final hearing, usually the judge has to decide on that day, but she decided that she's not gonna gonna decide on that day, and she's gonna do the written decision to give it to my lawyer, which never happened until she resigned. So unfortunately, I have to start over again with a new judge that has to replace her at that time. So it's just like a lot of things that sometimes, even us, we don't know, even our lawyer, they don't even know like how to solve those kind of things when it happens. So once she resigned, I got a new judge, and the first thing he say like, I don't even know why you're still here. So he gave me like a bond right away, and that's how I was able to get out of detention center. But then obviously we have to restart again my cases because it looks like we never did anything.
How long have you been working on this?
So my master hearing, sorry, I came out like in 2017. Oh, sorry. I came out in 2017, and then I got my hearing 2018. And then it just keep postponing because of the judge. The first judge that I had said that, okay, like she said my files, my previous file, like it's so big that she needs more time to review it. And so she asked us to come back the next year. And then from there, it just keep postponing until last year, finally, they decide to move from master hearing to final hearing. So this year in May, that would be my first. So it's been about over 9 years now, just to still trying to complete this asylum process. But like I said, finally my final hearing will be this coming May 20th, which I hope they won't postpone it again. And I think that's really how the title come about, the longest wait, because we don't know exactly how long it's gonna.
So still waiting.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about detainment. What was it like inside of a detainment center?
So inside detention, I would say it's nice because we have a lot of different women from different countries, and I was lucky enough to find such very positive and women that they just enjoy. I feel like they just enjoy life. Like doesn't matter where they are. But at the same time, I came across people that they are not doing so good, and I I think I felt like most of these women are the mothers who left behind their kids. I felt like there's no way, I don't have kids, so obviously there's no way I can comprehend or understand exactly how their struggle compares to ours. And so those are the ones that I felt more for them, because they're the one who always at night, it's so quiet because we're not allowed to talk once they turn off the lights. And so it's so easy to hear, like anything like moving, you can hear. So when someone is crying, like even if it's like all the way across the world, you can hear it from your bunk.
Can you go give them a hug?
No, that's another thing. We're not allowed when it comes to contact. How to say? human contact. Like when it comes to physical contact or something like that, we're not allowed in the facility. We're not allowed to hug or anything that comes with touching each other. Um, Especially when it's like light off, we are not allowed to go to a different bunk. We have to stay on our bed, either our bed or just the restroom when we want to use it. Anything else, we get a write up if we try to do that. So there's really nothing you can do about someone that just crying and just that they need you, but you just cannot do anything for them.
That's really tough.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about nutrition for 2 seconds. I know that it was not great in the detention center. Can you maybe share, would you feel comfortable sharing how much weight you lost while you were there?
That's funny that you I think I actually gained some,
She
but
didn't. She lost weight.
but when it comes to food, they actually have really good nutritious food for us. I think the issue that I can think of is just the timing of our meal. We have our breakfast we have at 4 or 4:30 a.m. and then we don't have anything until our lunch is at 1 p.m. And so right after our lunch, it's just few hours, and then we have our dinner at 4 or 4:30 p.m. And so for me, I think even the food is good. I think it's just the timing of our meal to just make it challenge for us to. Sometimes you still feel from your lunch, so you don't really eat until like obviously there's the the dinner is over, and then like around 7 or 8, that's when you actually like hungry, like you want to eat, but obviously there's like no food. If you don't have money, you don't really have anything to eat throughout the night and just wait until 4 a.m. in the morning. But for those that are lucky enough where they have money in their accounts and they were able to get like commissary, what she was talking about, they get their foods for Christmas. That's the only way that you can have food beside our meal time. And those food is just basically just snack. I think the common food that we all love is noodle, ramen noodle. That's what we eat all the time when we don't want to eat anymore at the cafeteria. But
And I was a little shocked to learn that it was only meat on Thanksgiving.
yes, we the only real meats that we eat was in during the Thanksgiving. Everything else is we don't get meat. We get something else, but I'm sure it just doesn't taste like meat. But yeah, the Thanksgiving is the only day where we get real meat or like chicken or turkey, which was great.
And I know we're running a little late on time, so I want to talk briefly about what compelled you to share your story, and when did you first feel like you should?
I think the main reason why I decided to write and really share our story was because I realized that not a lot of people, especially that doesn't know anybody who's detained or doesn't even know anybody who's like migrating over here and going through the asylum process. Like the other day, my friend I was talking with, and she was like, "Oh, so you're here with a green card or a work permit?" And all the list that she gave me, there's no like asylee, like for those lists. And I realized that not a lot of people understand or know anything about asylum, and that's really something that kind of compelled me to share our story so that people can understand more about the things that we go through or went through.
It was very eye-opening reading the book. Um, what is one main takeaway that you would like people to take away from your book, and who did you dedicate your book to, and why?
I would say for me, basically the main reason that I am so happy and excited to share my story is because I feel like if there's one thing that I can share with others is that circumstances doesn't determine your happiness, and that you have the choice, that the power of your choice can really help you to react to any kind of situation that you face in life in a very positive and uplifting way. And I dedicate the book to my mom, so my mother, because She was the one who encouraged me to leave my ex-husband when she found out that he abused me. And I said this because it's very normal in our culture that men abuse their wife, and it's also very normal that as a wife, as a woman in my culture, you have to take whatever whatever it comes your way from your husband. As a woman, you have to be strong for your family, and that's really like a mentality that a lot of women in my island, in my country, feel like they need to stay with their husband regardless of what the husband did to them. And I think what my mom did really encouraged me that leaving my ex-husband is the right thing to do for me to do. So
It's a very
that's all.
powerful message.
Thank you.
I would like to briefly read part of her story that really touched me when I was reading through it. And then I have a very special request after. Um, I know that you shared a dance with your fellow inmates on the last day that you were there. And I was hoping that you would grace us with that dance. Yeah. All right. So, from the book, the following day dawned like any other until the realization hit me. It was my last day in jail. A whirlwind of emotions swept over me: excitement, sadness, everything in between. And as I waited for the deputies to call for the final court, I was dressing in my bright green jail issued suit. I tidied my bed and stood for inspection one last time. As the deputy chuckled at my unruly hair, I couldn't help but smile, knowing I would soon leave this chapter of my life behind. I floated through the day on a cloud of emotions. Was tonight going to happen? Would I ever would I never sleep on my block again? Would I never be surrounded by these sisters again? It all felt surreal. Deputies asked me what I would do once I was out. I had no clue. They laughed. After being here for so long, I'd stopped thinking about leaving. After dinner, my friends requested that I dance one last time. Unfortunately, the yard where we usually danced was closed, and dancing inside the facility was against the rules. Since it was my last night, I decided to ask special permission. Surprisingly, it was granted. With that permission, I performed one last hula dance, their favorite. And as I gracefully moved to the rhythm of silence, I couldn't help but observe their expressions. Some smiled through teary eyes, while others openly wept. And with every step, my heart fractured a little more. It was a dance etched in sorrow, unforgettable in its poignancy. Each clap at the end echoed a farewell, a bittersweet symphony of parting. And as I concluded the performance, I made my way around the room, bidding farewell to each person, feeling the weight of each goodbye. The deputies called my number, signaling my imminent release. With my friends by my side, we gathered my belongings and walked towards the door, ready to embark on the next chapter of my journey. With a buzz, click, and turn of the key, I walked away, forward, my gaze lingering behind me the entire way. Walking toward the bus that would carry me away from the jail, I ascended the steps and settled into my seat. As the bus began to move, I couldn't help but look back one last time. I reflected on the journey in a whisper, murmuring, "What an experience." Now, without further ado, Miss Grace James.
I will, um, you can just play like something like Fakatele on that thing. Is my mic still working? Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna try to find like just a random island song, and I'll perform for you guys. It just remind me of the good times that I had with my friends inside, sharing my culture with them, and also for them to share their dancing from their culture. So I hope you guys enjoy. Yeah. I went to school in Hawaii, BYU. So I studied computer there for 3 years, and I was a canoe show dancer. So dancing is not started from there. Growing up as a Pacific Islander, dancing has been part of my life, and I'm just so grateful to have this because it helps me to connect with other people and just embracing my culture or my heritage or my identity. So hope you guys enjoy this. Kiribati language. We never speak English. So the first time I went to school in Fiji, that was like the first time I was exposed of trying to speak in English. So that was like the most challenging years of my life. So speaking in English is still something that I'm still struggle and trying to learn. And it's been a blessing to live in this country because it helps me so much to improve that. Can you say something in Yes. What? Let me translate this word. I am so happy to be here at this time. In my language, inang kukurenka ikonan nenan tetaya yoida kimi. It's right off your tongue. Yes. Our language, for some reason, I feel like it's always long. Like one sentence, it feels like a paragraph in my language. So it's super long. Sometimes my family, they'll like, because when we're chatting or talking to each other, sometimes I just write in English just because it's so short and easy. And we're like, oh, you live in America, so you're trying to be American. Like, you don't want to speak in our language anymore. I was like, it's so hard. Like, it's so long to type. And then the autocorrect is English. So they always think, like, autocorrect the words that I type. So, but yeah, it's been a blessing to learn a different language. And I was 19 years old when I went to University of the South Pacific. Because in my country at that time, we do not have university. So our senior last year of high school, that's like the most competitive year of our lives because that's when we really need scholarship to be able to continue our education. And I was lucky enough to get a scholarship and to go to Fiji because Fiji they have that's the main quarter um, school campus for all the Pacific Islanders. So yeah, are you ready? I don't want to crush this. Yes. Um, yes, that's actually sorry. To- Thank you. So that's actually a language that I do not understand. But one thing that we learn as a Pacific Islander is that every song tells a story. And it says any however how we feel the music and just how it just allow our body like that thing I never choreographed it before, but it's just I just follow whatever my body feels from the music. Our traditional dancing, my own traditional one is actually way different than the the hula dance that I just performed. But hula is actually I feel like it's mellow and it's like a it's expressed more like harmony, like peace. Right. So that's really how I feel like it's a perfect dance to be able to connect with someone and to be able to share that through dancing. Yes. So some of my friends, because we do have a yard time, so it depends on the officers that are on duty. If they gave us like uh, longer time outside, then we have more time to do other activities outside. But dancing is one of the things that I do with my other friends that actually also love dancing. And mostly is South Americans. I do have one like Chinese friend that's, she just always excited to learn anything. And she's also a part of our like small group. But yeah, dancing is one of the things that we're able to do. Sometimes I do it, and sometimes we take turns. Other people, my other friend from El Salvador, she will teach us how to do bachata. So it's like always different, different things. But it's just a way. I feel like it's a way for us to kind of take our minds off the actual situation that happened and just enjoy being human and enjoy um, being exist. I don't know. But yeah, dancing is one of our activities. Yes. So like I said earlier, it's we do have once a day, but it's not like a must or a should. It really depends on whoever is on duty if they allow us to go outside, which most of the time they do allow us, but then some of them they cut it very short. Like we just go outside for like 5 or 10 minutes and then they'll come and like, okay, like time's up. So it really depends on whoever is on duty on that day to to determine how long we can be outside. Yes. Um, so on the right after the leaving the facility that I was detained at, they took me to the um, ICE department or building in Orange County. Yeah, and then from there, they I had to get the anklet thing because unfortunately the other lawyer felt like I'm a flight risk, so I got that for like 3 to 4 months outside. But yeah, just one of the things that it's very normal because a lot of us have it, and it's the only way that we can go out and have it while we can be outside. Because if we don't, then it's kind of hard to go. No, because the thing is, once you are in the system as an asylee, one of the conditions is that you cannot go outside the United States until you finish your case. So May, if they don't postpone, which I really hope they won't. So yeah, but also once you finish your case, right away you would get a green card. And then one of the conditions of that green card is that you cannot go back to your country until you actually become a citizen. So, so um, before it's about 5 years. Once you get a green card, and then you wait, but it depends because my lawyer said every year they always have different immigration laws and policies. So for now, it takes 5 years after you get a green card to be a citizen. I finished 2 years in. Mhm. And then, so from there, 2 years in Fiji, then I went to the Philippines. I went to the Philippines. I was volunteer for the church for almost 2 years over there. Then when I came back, I had to reapply because my sponsor at that time, they didn't agree for the reason why I had to discontinue my study. But luckily, I got another scholarship, which allowed me to continue my study in Hawaii. And that's where I got my degree. I spent another 3 years to study because I guess their curriculum is not matched with the Fiji University, so I have to restart again. Yeah, I went back home. I became a teacher at the high school for computer, and then after 2 years, then I came over. No worries. It was a jail, so it's a chains music jail. So yes, it's like a big room and just like section with like bunks. So it's just a all open space. Yeah. So we have when I was there, we have women from obviously like the majority are from South America. So we have Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua. Then we have from Africa. But most of the Africans, I just learned that they also cross the border because they have to go through Panama, I guess. So Africa, then we have China, Philippines, Korea, Haiti. Yeah, Haiti. I hope I say it right. Haiti. Yeah. So when I was there, it's about 11 different. In total, the first building that we were in, it was about 60 of us, and then they moved us to a more larger building. It was about hundreds. Yeah. Yeah. So we have officers, like police. Yeah, police. Because we actually share the building with the inmates, so they actually the ICE, I guess, they rent out the space because the other actual ICE facility is already full. So that's where we we were. So we share, and I think that's also kind of affect our meal time because of the time that we have to share the cafeteria with the inmates and then with the guys as well. So that's why they trying to like maybe we have to be there at 4 so that others can be there at 6 or 7 for their breakfast. So that's from oh here. Okay. So I know Mike. I flew here. Yeah. So I fortunate to work for the airline. So I work for American Airlines. And so we have travel benefits, and that's how I use it to come here. So I flew in 2 days ago. Yeah. So I wrote the majority of the book when I was inside. So inside the facility, they do have a computer section. It's like 4 computers that they allow us to use for our courts documents or paperwork that we need. But it's funny because no one ever used those computers. And so while me and my friend, where I mentioned area where we help to fill up the form for other detainees, it come to my attention like since I'm using this, I decided to start using it to to write my story, which is we're not allowed, but it was the only way for me to. It's easier for me to start writing the story. So the majority of the book was being done when I was inside.
Did you journal before you were inside, or because your journaling was magnificent? I mean, very artistic. I mean, gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So since I was there, that is all the journal entries that I wrote the first day I arrived. But I was there for, like I said, more than a year. So it was like 379 specifically days that I was there. So that's how many days.
One every day.
I did one every day. And
Beautiful.
thank you.
How therapeutic was that for you to tolerate what you were?
Right. I think, yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to share, and how the mind, the mind really powerful despite of what you're going through physically. It can really affect, just the thought of something good and something, for me, it's, I explain in other days where my gratitude journal, I believe that it doesn't have to be like traditional way where you just always about things that you're grateful for, but it can be anything. Like you can think about that make you smile or just make you feel good about yourself. And that's really what my gratitude journal was about. It's a mix of things that I actually grateful for about the things that we have in the facility, the things that they provide for us, and the great friends that I have, and the activities that just make our experience, like for me, way more rewarding than I thought. And then when I don't have those things, when it's like hard, when I went to my court and the decision is not so good, and it's not so good day for me, then I started to think about the things in the past that just made me happy. The things that my friend say to me that just make me feel good about myself. And then I started writing like just phrases. And then from there, I just, write the feeling that I feel about those things. And for me, it takes my mind away from the actual things that I experienced during those times. So, yeah.
So you were a teacher, and so you actually had a kind of comfortable life. Was it more the abusive relationship that led you to decide that you needed to seek asylum and get out of the country?
Right. Yeah, because in my case, because I know that even the officers were like, Pacific Island is so far away. It's a beautiful island. How come you came here? But for me, in my case, my ex-husband, his family are very into, like, very influential people. They're into politics. Like, his dad used to be a former police. And also, it's just our culture made it very hard for us to report anything, and they don't really do anything. The first thing they would tell you is reconcile, like, because family is like a center of our culture. Like, it's so important that you just have to make it work, like, it will, like, just find ways to make it work. And I think that's why, for me, I felt like it's better for me to leave, because one is so hard that, it's a small island. First of all, there's no way you can hide anywhere because people know everybody. And then the second is that, I just feel, because the things that the leaving my husband was not something normal in my culture, and I just don't want my family to be like, people will talk about it. So I felt like it's my own problem, and that's how I solve it in my own way. That doesn't have to, like, affect, the people, like, that I care about, or like the people that I live with. And that's really the reason why I left.
Arranged marriages on your island?
We do, but gladly mine was not was not arranged. It's kind of in some ways, but not really, because that was my second marriage. I got married first in Hawaii when I finished school. Then, unfortunately, it's everything in the book, so that's why I don't mind sharing it. So after I graduated, that's where I met my first ex-husband. Unfortunately, just 4 days after our wedding, then he went out with a Hawaiian, um, another girl in Hawaii, and that's lead me to to go back to my country, because I already graduated. He's younger than me, so he have more years, so he stayed and I left. And then when I arrived home, I heard about who became my second ex-husband. I heard about his stories because, like I said, everybody knows everybody. Everybody kind of relates to anybody. So his wife, they're so young, and they have two kids, two sons, very young. The other one, the youngest one, he's almost 2 years old, and the other is about 4 years old. And the wife is actually my cousin, my second cousin, and she passed away. She had cancer, so she passed away a few months before I returned home. And so when I went home, it was not like an arranged marriage thing. It was like, it's your choice, like, if you want, because in my culture, usually when the mother has kids and she passed, usually it goes to the sister. But my cousin, she's the only child. And so they're trying to look for, like, cousins, that can take care of the kids, but they're so young. And for me, like, I went back, and obviously my marriage didn't work out. I guess I was like the best candidate, but still they asked me, like, if it's your choice, like, if you want, then, And so I met the sons before I met their father. And so when I met them, for some reason, I just felt like this is, maybe this was meant for me. And that's how so I don't really know my husband before I decided to marry him. So yeah, but it's not arranged marriage. But we do still practice arranged marriage for some families. But now it's became modern, I guess. It's up to you if you want.
What is asylum? What does asylum mean? And who is an asylum as opposed to an immigrant?
That's a good question. I think I kind of mentioned earlier, I just like the difference between refugee and asylum seekers. Like, but this is, like I said, this is just according to what I understand. But refugee is more like it's a process that it's already done before they even came to the U.S. and the government has ways for them that their document is already legalized before they came here, and that's kind of their status, refugee status. Whereas the asylum seekers, we have it's a system that we actually have to apply while we're in the U.S. And it's happened for people that flee from their country. It can be based on your personal, like for me with my ex-husband, it can be related to politics. If you're involved for politics and people are going after you, it can be with religion. If your country doesn't agree with what what you believe in, then just any things that have a chance to have a danger on your life. That's from my understanding. That's what asylum means. Yes.
Now, I know you mentioned about the one woman judge who was a little bit,
No.
and I was wondering, and if you don't feel comfortable answering anything, how were the personnel? How I mean, because I've read horrible stories about some of these detention centers, and I was just kind of curious what your personal experience was. If the police or the guards were angry, abusive, nasty.
For first of all, for the first question regarding the judge, she just have this. I feel like she just always find ways to attack, like not just you as an immigrant, but also like the lawyer who represents you. Like in our cases, I feel like the other lawyer doesn't even do anything because the judge is just like keep going back and forth. And sometimes if you do something like small, she can take it as something like, oh, you're not supposed to be in my court. Like you're not supposed to do that. Like she find ways to just like, I feel like sometimes it feels like personal thing, but she was just so challenging that even some lawyers, they don't have to take your case if they know that she's your judge. That's how, for me, that just shows how challenging this judge is. And so most of the detainees, unfortunately, that assigned to this judge, that being in the jail for a long time, they just do self deportation because they're just so tired being inside, and for her to just like keep prolonging their cases, and then that's when they decide. So most of the self deportees are assigned to this judge. But and then I sorry, I kind of forget what you asked. Oh, the system. If we go to our courts, I'm sorry. So we go to our courts, we have to wear the handcuff and then the anklets as well. And then while we like marching to our courts, officers make sure we keep our distance from them. So it's really like they will say like, oh, you guys are not criminal or anything, right? Because you don't commit felony or something. But just the protocol, I just felt like sometimes it make us feel like we're criminals. It's yeah. Yeah, you are.
Thank you, Grace, so much.
Okay, thank you. No worries.
The longest wait for sale.
Strength and your wisdom and just the gift of gratitude that you talked about today was really inspiring. And I know I like to tap into gratitude as a tool that I like to use when I'm feeling at my lowest. And the way you used it to inspire us and was just that inspirational. And
Thank you.
I don't think, I encourage everybody read her book because I think, the beginnings of your story are so powerful as well. And buy her book. but we do have this
Oh.
for you, and thank you
Oh,
so
wow.
much. And
Oh, thank
please
you.
keep carrying your message.
Thank you so
and
much.
Yeah, we'll,
Thank you.
yes.
All right, thank you guys.